All right, so I say it every week, but remarkably, we've reached the final lap, the final Fans Pulse lap 3 on episode 13. I hope it's been lucky for you. It's certainly been an enjoyable episode. Lots of good chat once again. Once again, please just a general request from you to help spread the word. Tag in some of your Speedway going, Speedway minded friends and family or work colleagues. Tag them in on social media. Get them across the 360 Speedway output and help us to grow the 360 family. Right, let's get into the final action for tonight. So, I am guessing that this could very well be the most, or be the topic that gets most viewed interactions this week. Let's see. We're going to take a little peek behind the public profile of Team GB and asking the potentially awkward question as to whether the organisational labelling is accurate. We're asking the question, Team GB versus England, does it matter? So, Stuart, Robbo, Carol, this is not, you're absolutely not a political discussion, right? Let's keep it Speedway, of course, but because I'm not looking to start any international incidents. There's plenty of them on the global stage at the moment. But on TV, almost on a weekly basis, in interviews in Speedway Star, I've held microphones under riders' noses at Glasgow, for example, and they quite easily slip into English Speedway and English that and English this, right? So here we are as a British Speedway entity. We label our international team as Team GB. In reality terms, it is only English riders who are represent the nation. But does it matter? I'm going to say this out loud actually, because this is week 3 of nominating this as a candidate subject to be discussed on 360 Speedway, and it's taken 3 weeks to get sufficient votes to air it and have the conversation. So I guess my question is, does it really matter, Nigel Crabtree?
Yeah, I think so. It should be Team GB. I feel sure it should be. Okay, at this present moment in time, they are all English what's riding for them. But let's not forget, a few years ago, there was Scottish lads in there, weren't there? Did Phil Morris do a bit for GB? He was Welsh.
He still is.
Yeah, he should be. Pardon?
He still is Welsh, yeah.
Well, he still will be Welsh, but he ain't riding now, is he? But... I think it should be GB. Because, and who's to say in maybe a few years to come, there won't be somebody from Scotland, I hope there is, comes through and makes it to ride for Team GB. It'd be very awkward, wouldn't it? Putting somebody come good in Scotland and all of a sudden he's riding for England. A bit awkward, that one, isn't it? So why not just go Team GB like they are doing? I think that's the right thing to do because it involves everybody. At the end of the day, the UK is all one, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
I know we're England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, I know all that. But we are all one, and if there's somebody good enough from Scotland, from Ireland, from Wales, wherever, and they should come good enough to ride for Team GB, well, that's what it should be, isn't it? It should be England, Team GB. Yeah, GB.
Thank you.
I think probably years ago, we used to have like a England team, didn't we?
Yeah.
Because Scotland had their own team,
That's
didn't
true.
they? Years ago, there was plenty of good Scottish riders about. World-class Scottish riders. And in them days, maybe it was England, yeah. But I think now it should be Team GB, feel sure of that.
So it doesn't keep Nigel awake at night. It doesn't keep me awake at night. Carol, can you explain in your own words, based on your understanding, why it's Team GB in terms of why it is Team GB and it isn't England, Scotland?
Right, for me personally, I think Team GB is a commercial product, as it is as Team GB. Now, Great Britain is what we should be. Great Britain Speedway team,
okay.
Not Team GB.
Yeah.
I feel it's a commercial product. Okay, they've done what they've done. We've commercialised British Speedway at the top level. And we've given the opportunity to commercialise it, which they have done by calling it Team GB. Now, it's Great Britain. That includes everybody. Does it have to have the Team GB? Do you have Team Poland? Do you have Team Denmark? it's Denmark, it's Poland, it's Great Britain. Drop the team, use it at the end. Great Britain Speedway team. That's what it is. I think it's been commercialised to view as that. England, like we're gone away from the England, Scotland, Wales, as we know. Yes, we might get riders in the future, but not enough, to warrant that. And I think, England now, football completely different. The England team, they're English. It's, that's just how it is. But I think for me, Great Britain, Speedway team, not Team GB, for me. But everybody's got their own opinion, haven't they? And that's my opinion.
See, listen, we're 5 minutes in and this hasn't been controversial at all, which I'm delighted about. I think, I might not say the right words here, but in general terms, hopefully you can follow what my meaning here. But the BSPL and the ACU, SEB, any body, any agency who has any sort of jurisdiction and authority over the sport and on these shores, their jurisdiction extends to the whole of the UK. So it's not just an English authority or a Scottish authority. I think that's the reason why Scotland doesn't have an independent autocycle union or speedway promotion company. So I think that's why almost by default, those agencies, those entities cover the whole of the UK. Stuart Robson, Carol mentioned there about the Team GB labelling, etc. Rob Painter and Vicky and all of the crew who are involved in that organisation, they have done a marvellous job over the last, I've lost count of the number of seasons now, 5-6 seasons maybe. They literally have transformed the structure, the look and feel, the sponsorship support, etc. for British Speedway at that international level.
Yeah, like Carl said, it was done as a commercial product, and yeah, it's kind of worked. But like he said, the other thing he said is you don't call them Team Poland or Team Sweden or Team USA. It's the USA Speedway team, the Polish Speedway team. So I get what he's saying now as well. That is what it is, but it's for the commercial side of it why they're doing it, and it's worked, I think, to an extent, hasn't it? They've put a lot of hard work into what they do, and they've with all the bikes, the team suits, because they got to have everything the same, don't they? When they can, everyone puts the same mud guards on and the same race suits and everything. So there's a lot of background work gone into all of this to do what they've done and to try and bring the sponsorship in. And I think that's what it's probably is mainly about, to bring in the sponsorship, to bring the money in to try and help fund it all.
I should actually invite Rob to come on. I have spoken to Rob in the past. Rob, if you're out there watching, or Vicky, I might try and get in touch with you offline and tee up a conversation and bring everyone up to date on all things Team GB. But Speedway isn't it's not the only sport who uses that Team GB label. I think some other motorcycle disciplines use that as well. The Olympic athletics uses Team GB as well. And to your point, Stuart and Carol, there has been some distinct commercial benefit around that. Allied Mobility, Allied who own and manage Glasgow Speedway are headline sponsors of Team GB as well. So, but I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to brush off the chip from my shoulder. But Glasgow and Edinburgh are in Scotland, and I do like to remind riders sometimes when on the microphone when they say I love riding in England. I said, well, what about Scotland? Yeah, I always slip that back in again. Just a little reminder. Nigel, to bring you back into this, you mentioned there about back in the day, and Scotland did have a bespoke international side. Bert Harkins, Jim McMillan, Bobby Beaton, to name but a few who were very good quality riders, Nigel. But the other thing I'm going to mention there was in the past, Glasgow at Sheffield, back in your time, Nigel, Glasgow did actually stage a Tri-Nations Series test match, and it was England. That was before the Team GB. It was England versus Sweden versus Australia, I think it was. So we're not actually going back that far in time when internationally. It was English Speedway and not Team GB.
Yeah, I mean, I'd not thought about it like Carl said. It is Great Britain, isn't it? And I have to agree with what Carl says. It is Great Britain. And again, like Carl says, the Team GB thing is just for commercial reasons. But it is Great Britain. And yeah, I agree with Carl fully. And we are all one, despite you saying Scotland, Edinburgh, Glasgow. We are all one, really, aren't we? We are.
Can I tell you a little known secret, Nigel? A little known secret, right? You know, the best British rider is Dan Bewley. What colour of hair does Dan Bewley have? That's all I'm saying. I'll leave that out there.
Well, he's obviously got to have a bit of Scottish roots in him.
He does. He does.
He has his tartan on his.
He has his tartan. He loves iron brew. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope Scotland can produce one or two good lads. I hope they do. Say they used to do, didn't they? But having said that, England used to produce dozens of world-class riders. Now, you can only mention 3 world-class riders, can't you? Well, no, 2 at the minute, isn't it? So, we're all suffering, aren't we? Not just Scotland, England. We're all suffering a bit at the minute, on that score. But it will turn around. I do believe tables turn, and it will all come back, I'm sure. And I hope Scotland can produce 1 or 2. And there's maybe. Well, I don't know. I was looking at a team picture maybe a week or 2 ago, and I can't remember if it was Edinburgh or Glasgow, and it was full of Scottish riders. The whole team, Scott Lamb, I think Stuart might have been in there, James Greaves. I can't remember who else there was at the time, but it was Kenny McKinnon, obviously, Charlie McKinnon. Yeah.
Martin, you better mention Martin.
Martin McKinney, yeah. But Glasgow, Edinburgh fielded a Scottish team at once upon a time, didn't they? More or less, full Scottish team, which is good.
Listen, I didn't. Just to go back to what I said at the top, I didn't intend this conversation to be about Scotland and England. It wasn't that at all. It was a genuine question as to whether. Our Speedway fans, and I'm talking to you guys watching out there in YouTube land. Our Speedway fans particularly hung up on Team GB versus England. Speaking to the guys here, myself included, none of us are. We're quite comfortable with Team GB or relabeling it as Great Britain, perhaps eventually. But the mere fact that it's taken a few weeks to get enough votes to talk about this. As a voted for discussion topic suggests to me that maybe the consensus view out there is that there's no big deal about this, Stuart Robson.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think people are too fussed these days, especially within the Speedway world. I know in life in general, a lot of Scottish people don't like English people.
I'm not nodding. I wasn't nodding along to that at all.
Yeah, but it's not when it comes to Speedway. I don't think it matters. People within Speedway in general just like to see good Speedway, regardless of where they're at or who it is. That's they don't care where they're from, whether it be the other country altogether.
100%.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Within the sport, I don't think anyone would be too overly fussed, or not many would be overly fussed about it anyway.
No, it's interesting. Who knows what lies ahead in terms of developing the sport, and Edinburgh has I'm picking on Glasgow and Edinburgh again. Edinburgh has a training facility. Glasgow has one now. Glasgow could make better use of theirs currently than in comparison to Edinburgh. But who's to say that in the not too distant future that we might unearth a Scottish rider or a Welsh rider or an Irish rider? It can't be impossible, right, Nigel?
No, that certainly isn't. They've produced them before, haven't they? Okay, a few years ago, but they used to be them, so why can't they be again? It's just, but England's the same, isn't it? They aren't producing as many as they used to do. Nowhere is. But I do believe the tide will turn and somebody will crop up somewhere and they'll set the world alight, won't they? Like your Dan Bewley has done. And somebody somewhere will crop up and and again I agree with what Stuart says. Scottish, English, does it matter? Because at the end of the day, we're representing, again, I don't know if it matters, Team GB, Great Britain, we're all representing our country, aren't we? The UK, and we'd all, I'm sure we can all agree, we wouldn't, like Stuart again says, I don't care where they come from within the UK, but it'd be great to have a team what was up there winning everything and showing the polls how it's done rather than vice versa. Like, it'd be great.
Yeah,
wherever they come from, whichever country.
Exactly, and listen, we all admire and appreciate true talent on a speedway track, regardless of your nationality. Carol, I mean, just point in case, Carol Johnson. Think of those occasions at the National Speedway Stadium in recent seasons where Team GB has lifted, gold medals, etc. at Speedway of Nations level. No one in that crowd at all gave a monkeys that it was Team GB and not England.
No, they're obviously happy to see our boys lift the trophy, and it's it's been a long while, hasn't it, since we've had that sort of glory as a team, really. And look, credit to Rob and Vicky for what they've done, because without what they've done, and yes, commercialising British Speedway, without them, we wouldn't have the world stage that we have with the riders that we've got. We certainly wouldn't have the talent coming through that we've got now that are in their system. They've done this off their own backs. And, I've been party to conversations, obviously, at AGMs, where really it's left to them. They do whatever they want because they're getting no help from elsewhere. And for me, that shouldn't be like that. So who's living off the back of who? Is British Speedway living off the back of what Team GB are doing now because of the input of Rob and Vicky? Or are they living off British Speedway? Commercially, they're the ones that are pushing it forward.
Yeah.
On the world stage, aren't they? Not just, in the Grand Prix, but, the GP2 and it's now filtering down through all levels. Now, that's only down to them. And obviously Neil Vatcher being involved. Neil's a massive part of that, or has been, and credit to him. I've always said that, credit to him for what he's done, but them two have really pushed it on. And for me, without them, we would have been in a hell of a lot worse state than we are now. 100%,
and I'm so glad you mentioned Neil before I did, but because Neil does some hard yards to achieve and look after the young lads. So there we are. Listen, let's draw a close to episode 13. Remarkably, another hour plus of good old Speedway discussion now in the YouTube channel bank. Just please make sure that if you're watching this part, episode 13, part 3 or part 4, do remember that there are 4 parts in total for each episode. We've now got almost 90 videos, I think, on our YouTube channel. So if you've only watched 360 Speedway in part for a short few weeks, then please make sure you jump into our YouTube channel and pick up the full gambit, the full 15 or 16 hours worth of Speedway chat. Okay, gents, listen, I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you once again. I really enjoyed your company once again this week. Stuart Robson, Nigel Crabtree, Carol Johnson, thank you very much for your time and your input and your good humour. Enjoy your Speedway over this sunshine-filled weekend. Get tracksides, look after yourselves, and most of all, enjoy your Speedway. See you next week. Good night.